Hi, my name is Chris Dixon. This is Founder Stories. Today we have Steve Anderson, the founder of Baseline Ventures. Thanks for being here.
How you doing, man?
Good, thanks. And I should disclose I was an investor in two of your four funds.
Yes.
So what is Baseline and how'd you get it started?
So Baseline is a seed fund, and I started Baseline 5 years ago because I was trying to start a company. And I had been at Kleiner, I had been at eBay, I had been at Microsoft, I'd been at Starbucks, so I was ready to start a company. And I was struggling with how I was going to get it funded because I really wanted to raise a seed financing. And 5 years ago, it seems like ancient history, but 5 years ago, in order to raise $500,000 or $600,000 from a Sand Hill Road venture capitalist, you really had to sell 40 or 50% or sometimes more of your company to do that.
That's what happened with my company, SiteAdvisor. We sold 60% or something in the first round because the options were either like angels at a very small amount and then you have to go kind of round them up, or VC and they want to put in a certain amount of money, and then so we raised far more than we ever spent, for example.
Yeah, right. And so, and I thought about that. Do I want to go talk to 50 angels and try to put a round together? And I didn't want to do that either. And the reality also is that on Sand Hill Road, everyone talks about the $1 billion exits. And if you look at the history of the last 15 years, there hasn't been that many $1 billion exits. Yeah. Valuations and rounds, yes, but not exits. So it turns out that the average exit over the last 10 years on average has been $100 million.
Yep.
And so I was thinking to myself, well, geez, if I owned 10% of a $100 million outcome, that's real money for me and my co-founders and anybody else. And so why isn't there anybody whose capital is aligned and incented for that type of outcome? So
I think this is a trend that other people, you were I think ahead of the curve, but other people noticed and sort of became what they called the sort of super angel, or now I prefer seed fund kind of movement or phenomenon, whatever it is you want to call it.
For sure.
Which has since become, I think, fairly well established.
It has.
And proven. I know personally have generated like significant returns and now are raising a new fund based on that. Or sorry, you raised a new fund, a new $100 million fund based on that.
Yeah, that's right. So a couple points in there. One is there is a robust seed fund market now. I mean, when I started, I had to beg many people to get $10 million scraped together, and you were one of them. And so the nice thing about the model is that I've proven that the seed model works, and other people have proven that as well by returning lots of capital to investors. And at the same time, there are more than 15 companies in my portfolio that I invested in that have exited, where the founders and the employees have also made significant returns for themselves while contributing to the technology ecosystem. So yeah, you're right. Now I've raised a $100 million fund, which the irony is that it's a lot of money, and it only took me 4 weeks to raise versus 9 months to raise 1/10 the amount of dollars, which I think again is a testament to, again, the sector and the track record being something that investors of all types are now interested in. And I should probably talk about the fact that
well, I remember like when we were raising at Founder Collective in 2007 or something, we were going to some investors and they said, well, I'm trying to divest myself of VC. Last thing I want to do is invest in more VC. And we said, we weren't VC, we're a different asset class, we're a seed fund.
Yeah.
And no one even understood what that, they were like, what? And, it sounds like VC to me. And now I think it's become more widely accepted that this is it's sort of its own asset class.
Right, yeah, you didn't fit the box that, and now, again, to me, returns dictate everything, right? If you have returns, if the asset class has returns, more money's going to come. And so, so for me, as I think about why I raised so much capital, it's really to do two things. Back when I started Baseline, it was because I saw this mismatch between exits and available capital, and even the size of funds didn't permit larger venture capital funds from investing in smaller exits because you just don't move the needle. And so I'm continuing to do that core business. That mismatch that I saw then as now still is, I think, quite valid. The other mismatch that I've observed in the marketplace is that so far, if you think about follow-on rounds, most of the data and most entrepreneurs will tell you, and you've probably experienced this yourself, is you have to sell at least 20% of your company at every financing. And so, to me, that's another mismatch. I don't think entrepreneurs...
And that's driven mostly by the economics of these big funds, and we could talk about that, but it's basically you have a big fund and you have a certain... Each partner can only invest in so many deals, and you have to have, to return a $500 million fund, you have to have, let's say, $2 billion exits and own 20%. So there's this whole model they have, which sort of forces them to own 20%.
Right, and to hope that one of those will be $1 billion exit, or more, so they have 20% and can actually start to begin to return their fund. Right, that's what I call the denominator problem.
Yeah.
So my whole strategy is with this second part of this capital is to say to entrepreneurs, like, you don't have to sell 20%. You can sell far less, and the math actually works.
So you still have, so you sort of see it as this $100 million is part of it is a traditional, or your traditional seed fund, and then the other part is this sort of secondary, I mean, this later stage, but Series A, Series B,
It's, I call it core, and then increased opportunity is what I call the two different things.